And Ms. Chair, it's all yours.
Okay, so we will call the meeting to order at 7:00 p.m. Do we just stand and do the pledge even without a flag to face?
We can sit and do it.
Sit and do the pledge?
Yeah,
All
because
right,
I
let's
don't
do
want to
the
look at
pledge.
everybody's belly, so.
All right, yeah, it looks weird. All right.
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we're all over the place on that. It's very well in unison. Okay. I'm sorry, Diane, do you want to call the roll?
Sure. Dave Anderson,
Yes, here.
Ryan Anderson,
Here.
Rob Houts is not here. Carolyn Janssens,
Here.
Chris Mulvihill,
Here.
Drew Peters,
Here.
and Brian Tector is not here.
Okay. So we have public comment. Did anybody submit any public comments?
Well, let me double check one more time because I had until 7 o'clock to do it. And I have no emails for public comment.
Okay, so without any public comments, we will move on to the next agenda item. Approve the minutes of the November 3rd Planning Commission meeting and Tree Board meeting. Did everybody get an opportunity to review those minutes?
Yes. I move.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. The minutes are approved. Item number 6 on the agenda, discuss and approve a sign variance for J&R Hera at 210 East North Street. Who's going to make the presentation on this one?
Mr. Brennan.
Okay.
Yes,
Take
I
it away,
will, and
Jonathan.
I did extend the invite to Brian Hera, but looks like he's not going to join us this evening. But J&R Hera has requested a sign that I have included in your packet. Because they are still in the downtown sign district, it does not meet the downtown sign district guidelines because it is internally illuminated and it's larger than the downtown sign ordinance allows. If any of you in your mind's eye can picture or just look at the inserts in the packet, their building is kind of offset from First Street. And there are, I think, there are 2 lots there and one of them is the parking lot. So the J&R Harris sign that they're applying for is on the west facing side of the building, and you can see the illustration there.
I have a question. Is this part that we talked about taking out of the downtown district? Is
Yes.
this a parcel?
Yes, it is.
So if that recommendation is approved, then this would not be in the downtown sign district anymore?
Correct.
Well, let me give you just a little bit of background because the village board through the committee of the whole discussed this at their last meeting. And a couple of trustees had issues of taking out Elburn Radiator and J&R Hera. They wanted First Street, all of First Street to remain in the downtown sign district. And so that will actually go to a vote on December 7th in front of the village board. So currently, as of this date, it is still in. And the committee of the whole wanted this portion to still stay in. So when we get to the village board next Monday, they will have to take a vote on whether or not to approve the new boundaries. And so I don't know if they're going to keep J&R Hera in. I mean, that was the direction, But now here is another sign variance for the downtown sign district. And, I'm just kind of wondering if this will make them rethink the boundary. Because they've granted a variance for the Elburn radiator. This will be another variance in the same area. They granted a variance for obscurity for a similar style. So it could be that they want to keep this area in, but still go through this process so that they have a bit of control over what the signs look like for this area. So to answer your question, this is the area that the Planning Commission did recommend removing. The Committee of the Whole wanted to keep this area in, but it has not been formalized yet, and it will go for a vote next Monday.
So would our recommendation regarding a variance be on the same agenda, or would it not make it to the same agenda?
It will be on the same agenda.
Okay. So that raises two questions in my mind. One being, do we vote on this now and allow our recommendation? Our recommendation might have some impact, or it might not, we don't know. Or do we table this until they decide whether or not it's even in the sign district? And if they decide it's not in the sign district, then they don't need a variance.
My recommendation would be to take a vote, make your recommendation to the village board, and let them sort out what they want to do. Because if we push it off another month, that is going to push J&R Hera, further back. And I would prefer that we give them a straight up answer of either yes or a no, instead of making them wait for another planning commission meeting.
If I may, John, I agree wholeheartedly with you. The issue that we talked about at our last meeting, I would much rather go with a variance issue on issues such as this than to just totally drop something as far as the village board is concerned. If they do not wish to drop it, then the businesses or whomever that are interested in making a difference, they come in for a variance.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather go that way than wait and add another 30 days, if you will,
Right.
to a viable business that is good within the village.
Yeah, because we would not see, if a vote was not, or a recommendation was not made tonight, Planning Commission would not see this again until January 5th. And then that means that the village board would not see it until January 18th. So we're looking at, a bit more than 6 weeks of a delay.
And we still might end up in the same seat that we're sitting in today, which would mean another possibly 2 weeks to a month.
Didn't the fire department, Chris, have a sign on the side of the building anyways?
We did. It wasn't backlit. It was lit by the lights off of the building, but it was just 3-dimensional letters.
Yeah.
It wasn't backlit, self-lit like this one is.
It also
think
predated
that's-
the downtown sign
Right.
district.
Right.
It predated the sign, okay, so.
What is the variance, or what is the signage for the other business that's across the street? I'm not
That was,
familiar enough with it.
Elburn Radiator, they affiliated with Napa Auto Repair. And so they have an internally lit sign with a corporate logo.
And do you know how big it is, the lettering?
I don't remember. Tom, do you? I thought the sign was about, like 2.5 by 3?
It might
It's
be
not
bigger.
a big sign, But I remember that one of the caveats to that was that it faced North Street. It didn't really face out to 47, out to Main.
Right, and it also had to be turned off, I believe, at 10 o'clock at night.
Right.
And that's still the rule for them? They have to turn theirs off at 10 o'clock at night?
Yes.
Okay, so the information that came with, there's not much information with this variance request as far as what the impact is, why, you know, on the, sorry, I'm trying to look up the ordinances because if we're gonna vote on a variance, if I understand, we have to do the factors, don't we?
No,
Oh, is that only for special use?
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, well, how'd I screw that one up? So we don't have to make any sort of findings of fact, it's just we either recommend it for approval or we don't. Oh,
Correct.
I'm sorry. I thought for sure there was something more to that.
No, we'll do that during a public hearing.
Okay. Well, what does everybody think?
I say approve it.
I don't really have a problem with it, especially since it's going to be off at night, you know.
Well, that was the Napa building. There hasn't been anything with this, I don't think, Tom, where they've said that they would turn it off at night.
no, if you guys want to make a recommendation that that be turned off at a certain hour, then we can include that into the variance that you pass along to the village board.
Might be
Yeah.
beneficial.
Yeah.
Especially with it facing towards 47, you'll definitely be able to see that light shining, especially if they're backlit, correct? So it's in a position where you definitely would see at least portion of it from 47 potentially. But if it follows the same as across the street, I don't see a huge issue with that.
A simple way to do this, maybe as far as it being illuminated it's illuminated during business hours, period.
Yeah, but he operates sometimes 24 hours, so.
Yeah.
Well, again, if that's his business operation, then it can be done 24 hours. I'm just thinking, when the fire department had the sign on the corner, that was lit all the time, and you know, yeah, but you couldn't see it from 47 because of vehicle blockage of traffic and cars parked along the street. This will be up a little bit higher and actually show off the business. And if we are thinking that, and I believe that was kind of our attitude a month ago, it's a business district. It's a business area. Let's
Mhm.
let people know they're there.
That's
What-
why they put up signs.
Does
Mhm.
Obscurities ever shut theirs off at night or no? Or is it on 24 hours?
I
Sure.
haven't been out that late, Ryan, I don't know.
Sure you were.
But you know,
I
if
don't-
if theirs are on during business hours, you know, they could be on through, you know, midnight, 1 o'clock.
Right.
I don't remember that even being a discussion that we had about the hours with
I
obscurity.
don't believe it was with obscurity, but it was, I believe, something that was discussed at the board as far as the Elburn Radiator Napa sign.
Yeah, because you're right, Carolyn. I don't think we did with obscurity. And I remember when Napa came, or when Elburn Radiator came to us, I don't think that was coming from the planning commission about the times.
Correct,
It must have been done at the board level, not us.
correct.
That was a board decision?
Yes.
Okay.
So I do think to address what Dave said, I do think it's different than the fire department, at least my recollection of what was there with the fire department, that wasn't internally lit. It was lit with spotlights from the outside on the corner, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, so that wouldn't violate the sign ordinance.
No, it wouldn't.
No, it's just because it's backlit. That's the biggest issue.
Mm-hmm. And the size.
And it ends up, Carolyn, I think, being a semantics issue.
Why do you think that it's a semantics issue? I'm not understanding that.
Well, it's how it's lit. You follow me? If it's lit from behind, it's one way. If it's lit from the front, it's another.
Well, I don't see that being I mean, I understand that, but I don't see that being a semantics issue because I think that signs that are illuminated from lights that are shining on it are allowed. There are no restrictions on that. It's those backlit signs that are specifically prohibited in that particular district. So I assume that when they wrote the sign ordinance, they made that distinction for a reason.
Right, because what they're trying to avoid, at least my understanding is that what they're trying to avoid is having, like the hanging beer signs, the old style or the Pabst beer signs that were internally lit. You see that on American Bank and Trust, which predates the ordinance as well, that they're trying to keep the older downtown feel within that sign district. And, an internally lit sign is a more, modern sign, if you will. And so, obviously things change. But like I said, I thought that was the intent behind it. So, and Carolyn, you're right. If they were to put these letters up on the side of their building and put some spotlights on the ground and kept it at 18 inches, we wouldn't be here discussing it.
Right, so that's why it matters to me, at least in my thought process, what we, or at least the village board did for the neighboring property. Because if they have to turn their sign off at 10 o'clock, I don't really think it's appropriate to tell another business or to not suggest that another business should do the same if we're talking about the same type of sign. I kind of assume the Napa sign is probably of similar size, letter-wise. Like I said, I can't recall. I should have gone over there and looked at it, but.
I get a little bit of history. When I grew up here in town in about 1955, 56, Glidden's drugstore, which was across the street from the grocery store, they changed the whole front. They covered all the windows and they put some kind of a material up there. And they had a Glidden's, huge Glidden's sign that was fluorescent. That was on any time that it wasn't daylight.
Mm-hmm.
Not a problem. You're advertising business here in town. At the time, there were a lot of comments about, boy, that's grotesque and this, that, and the other thing. And, 2 months after they had it up there, it went on day after day, year after year. Nobody said anything.
Yeah. Let me get back to the Napa sign. I'm going to try to share my screen here, so bear with me a second. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the Napa sign. So it's bigger than I remembered.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like 3x5 or 4x6, if I
Right.
remember.
And so if we come over here to the corner, that's where, in this area is where the fire department had their sign. And I think there's one of the
Spotlights.
one of the lights. And what we're talking about is over here.
So the sign ordinance only applies to the lettering on the sign, not the sign itself?
I'll throw that over to Tom to let him explain how the sign size is figured out.
It's the size of the lettering, it's the illumination, and it's the materials
Thanks,
being
John.
used.
So you can have, like on that Napa sign, the sign itself is bigger, but it doesn't necessarily violate it for the size because the letters are smaller?
The plaque is larger than they would
be
than
allowed.
the downtown sign ordinance allows. And the material, and that's a national sign too, and they want to avoid nationally distributed or, you know, those kind of like those types of signs are,
Corporate signs.
called out in the sign ordinance, how they want to kind of stay away from that.
Okay. So my last thought on the subject is that I think that J&R Hera is a little different than the Napa, and it's certainly different than the old Gliddens because those would be more walk-in businesses. J&R Hera is a service business. I haven't been in there, so maybe I don't know if they have a showroom and think that they may very well for a construction side, but they're not trying to attract business walk-ins off of the street like a Gliddens would be, or even a Napa when you're driving by. People call J&R service to come out to them mostly. They don't walk by and say, you know, I could use some plumbing work. So I do find it to be a little bit different than a walk-in business. But anyway, so that's kind of my thought is why it might be different. But I think that if there's a restriction on the timing of the sign across the street that is backlit, then there should be a restriction on the timing of J&R Harris sign. But just like in our illustrious election, I only get one vote. So now we have to decide what we do collectively.
I can go along with that. We had an issue with Napa originally in the village. And what happened there is the roof became the sign.
Yeah. I've seen those Napas.
Yep. And I don't think we want to be that, how do I want to put it? Rude.
Well, do we just want to say that we approve it and then along or put in the notes? Because since the village board changed that the Napa sign to 10 o'clock anyways, they could come back and say, hey, we want to change to 9 o'clock. So when we make the motion to approve, then pending village board alignment or whatever with Napa, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't matter to me.
If you want to have the 10 o'clock in there, I guess the way that I would recommend you make the motion is that, you know, you approve the sign with the condition that it's off at 10 o'clock to match the other commercial building across the street, just so that you're staying consistent and make that recommendation to the village board. Because I would be willing to bet you a small cup of coffee that they don't remember that they put the 10 p.m. curfew on that light.
That was my concern. And they probably aren't the same people either. Some of them might be, but you know.
Yeah, I think it is, but you know, we deal with this stuff on a daily basis, and you know, it's what we do, and the board doesn't always remember that stuff. So, you know, it's our job to remind them, and you know, that's why we brought it up here. And you know, like I said, I think that's reasonable to make that recommendation, to make that condition, and you know, let the board figure it out. But you know, that's certainly within your purview to make that recommendation.
I agree with that recommendation.
A motion.
All right, so if I may try to phrase a motion. So I would be looking for a motion to approve the variance for J&R Hera with the same or similar restrictions as it relates to hours of operation regarding from the property across the street. Or something like that.
I accept that.
Okay, so is that a motion, Dave?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Uh-oh. Oh, here it is. I was gonna say, I think I was afraid I might have closed. I think I may have closed my agenda.
Item 7 is other business.
Okay. Any other business?
Well, I was going to give you an update on the recommendation for the sign ordinance, but kind of already covered it. So
Okay. That's all you had, huh?
That's it for now.
All right. Well, I don't have any other business. I don't think we need to belabor that point any. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Well,
So
before we do
moved.
that, I would like to wish everybody a very happy, healthy Christmas and New Year's holidays.
Thank you. You
Thanks.
too.
Thank
As
you, you
well.
too.
Thank you.
All right. Did we get that motion?
So moved.
And seconded? And voted
A
on?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 John can stop recording.
Yeah.
I can stop recording and